Alright, we're starting in front of stones, 'cause stones. 'Cause stones. Hey, look, I can make myself look like I have antlers. I didn't even know that that angle was possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have antlers. It's a shout out to somebody special if she catches it. But I really didn't plan that. Hey. Yes. Stones. 'Cause stones. Cool. Coming on in, coming on in. It was one of those nights where I just fidgeted so much. I was like, is this... like, come on. It's just me. It's just tail. Just do the thing. Squeak the squeaker. Get it in there. Ish. Yeah. Ish. Oh yeah, I was going to do a fancy thing. It's okay. There's still time. It's day 117. Nobody minds. Oh yeah, I was going to do that thing too. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do do. It's a little bit of a glare that I did not care for. Did not care for that glare. I was going to do like a, oh, this alludes to a time. This froofty-doo. It would look cool if I did like, oh, froofty-doo. There you go. You've been froofty-dooed. This came from a hippie sister whom fit the picture I'm about to give you. I don't know why I'm being so crazy about this froofing. Come on, it doesn't even matter. It's just a froof. What am I doing? What am I doing with my froofing self? Okay. Wanted to give you some of the world and the dribble too. I wish it was sort of more dramatically dribbling for you. I'll bring you just a little closer to me. I feel like you're a little far away in our storytelling endeavor. I just wanted to show you the planets, but you've seen them. I just kind of want you to like be inside outside with me. I'm going mountain climbing here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it's day 117. And the story I'm about to bring you, yes, I said story, incorporates, some hiking. That's why I sort of dress like I'm a Colorado gal and I'm ready to get into them there hills. Trying to incorporate some of that. And it also thematically ties in with the rain. It's been raining all day. It's been a really, really crazy couple of days. Like craze to the craze. Not even going to tell you yet because I'm not sure that I should. I don't know. One of those kind of really in the front seat at the jerky movie theater. Remember the Blair Witch? How everyone was saying how they were so scared they were leaving? Like, I remember the hype around that. People being like, oh, people are leaving. It's so scary. Oh, this is from the Blair Witch. If I had more snot. I'm so scared right now. More snot. And we're still... I've copied that many times in my youthful movie making. But I remember the hype. People being like, oh yeah, people are just bailing. Oh, my floofty is already gone. It was kind of warming my butt a little. Actually, I'm going to be not much of a mountain girl and cushion thy butt. Cushion thy buttocks. But yeah, people weren't leaving because they were scared. They were leaving because they were puking. I had to puke. My dad got sick too. So did the friend we were with. Pretty sure we all got sick, but I was the only one who Ralphed, as is usually the way with me. I'm the Ralpher. I wonder if we can... Will this help me? Oh, it might. Slightly. There we go. Yeah, it was just... I'm so motion sick. So anyway, that was just a long analogy to tell you that things have been jostling me along. But yeah, I did dress like a for a reason, because it's a mountainous story. My floof and my butt padding is just not working because I'm getting too dramatic for y'all. Too all up in it. I will say for, oh right, multi-directional thinking. Whew. The reason I'm bringing you a story, and yes, kids, I did say I'd be incorporating stories in here with this here poetry, because a story is a poem, is a poem, is a story, is a song, is a poem, is a story, is a rap, is a rhythm, is a rhyme, is a dream, is a poem, is a story. We've gone over this. If you know, you know. But I did say I'd be weaving in a story or two, some fictional, some actual. This is the latter category, the actual stories. But it's National Storyteller Day. Storyteller. I have oodles I could say about that, but all I can say is this is more like, gold miner Marty. Yeah, this is just, we'll go with it. Rain more. Rain more for dramatic effect, please. Yeah, this is an actual story. And I just love that storytelling exists. It's how we know that we're alive. And it's movies, and it's Mother Goose books, and it's the things we understand collective we. I just made that up. Dibs. Hashtag collective we. Just me stammering, but made a word. Love that. Favorite thing when I stumble and get a thing out of it. Collective we. There's a tether and a through line because of storytellers. And it's how the truth comes out. It's also how lies are propagated, but it's how the truth comes out. It's how your dreams come out. How your love that you can't tell anybody comes out. I just love storytelling. And going to New Mexico and Arizona frequently with my parents and going to powwows and trade shows and things, there would always be those amazing storyteller dolls. It's very prevalent in indigenous culture. These women with all these, and they're usually clay or glass, sometimes metal, I've seen them, but they have little children. It's a huge, like, mama, usually, sometimes papa, storyteller, and then they have all the little wee ones kind of attached to them, listening, and it's a visual analogy as well, like they are latched on to the story of people. It's how we come to know ourselves, and unfortunately, a lot of people in America, especially, I think, perpetuate this hate that continues and a story of separateness instead of sameness and just lameness. Yeah, just perpetuating these stories that there's obviously a lot of little mini-me's running around with some scary thoughts in their little heads. 'Cause it's passed down. Everything we do is passed down among us. So I think storytelling is so important. My mother and father were both always storytellers, having our solstice gatherings. People wanted to know more, and my mom would come into the schools and do storytelling. I remember we had this huge basket, I think we still have it in the garage somewhere, full of, it's like a very old, like probably 80 to 100-year-old ram horn that was like rotting into, looked like bark almost, and just nests and eggs we found along the way, and boobles and baubles and nature. Everything is a story. We are a story. So it's cool. It's a cool day. And I just picked one because I sometimes like to tell my most extreme and revealing stories because it's fun. It's why I want to be a filmmaker. It's like that gritty, that real. I don't know why. Those are always the most gravitational pull stories, right? The ones that kind of make you go, oh, what? And this isn't even on that Richter scale. I think I missed it. Been a very stress-filled, blurry couple days, but I think I missed it 2 days ago, was National Richter Scale Day. But yeah, this crazy ain't even really on the Richter scale. Oh, speaking of crazy, just got a crazy text message. Yes. So, not even really on that old Richter scale of what? Wanted to point out, I knew I'd be needing some water for this one. My boo made this sticker. This is Authentico Original. But we made it say, crazy big ass. And I like that. Oh, he made this one too. Ask me how. You could have some. It says, get lost. I like that. Oh my gosh. I did not plan that. Okay, you're gonna hear the telling story I'm about to tell y'all, and you're gonna see how crazy it is. I did not plan this. I just wanted you to think I was funny with crazy big eyes, crazy big, and then you're gonna hear the story. And I can't believe I forgot I was gonna show this, and it says "Get lost." Tell ya what? Oh yeah, I was gonna weave in also that right now I'm doing the like what you would perceive a Colorado girl to be, and this is how I dress in them hills, in them thar hills nowadays. This is what I would wear. But back then, I was one of two things. this iteration of the teal, this particular genre, the me that I was. This particular me, I was always either prairie, like this is an old gunny sack, actually. We did that whole thing for the creator of Gunny Sack, who just passed, but this is a gunny sack duo, matching little vest, and come on down to the prairie rose. That was almost my best friend's name. I was either that, or like hopeful-hearted Zen seeker. Like there was a whole group of us, and we smoked way too much weed for young ladies, way too much to be decent, and we shopped at the Tibetan shops frequently, often, muchly, and this still smells of that shop in the most intoxicating way. Very, very delicioso. But yeah, it was like this very hopeful-hearted, trying to be Tao for the first years I was diving into that. Always wearing this shirt, always. But it was this kind of thing, you know? We had a lot of sarongs. Something bad's going down. It always does when the weather changes. I hate that. I hate that when I'm trying to enjoy the mysticism of the weather changing, but it's always like every time it shifts, there's sirens. Don't like that. But yeah, we had way too many sarongs among us, and not enough bongs among us. Not enough bongs to share. This was a big fave. This was a like, this is the me that I am. This is me right now. Do you want to smoke a bowl? Got this great little mirror. This too also just, wow. I mean, still smells like me at 20, I guess I was 22? 21? 20? The other person in this story had just gotten out of high school. And I'm a few years older than she. So I think it would have been 20. So yeah, it was a very, very bangly time. We all had a lot of spangles and bangles. I feel almost like we should just go tell it right outside, because it seems a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? You feel me? If I'm going to be adventurous, just be adventurous. Right? Right? Don't worry. Don't worry, I got you on a long tether. Oh, but maybe I want to be like right under the awning. To be like a little bit. Little puss puss. Remember that was one of my rap name possibilities. A little bit little puss puss, but mostly cool. Mostly cool. Okay, we're trying to get it here. We're trying to get it. We'll just go here-ish. Need my story, though. Need my story as much as I need my crazy big ass. If your name was Virginia Dale, you'd be fat in the ass. I never get tired of that line from my friend and former roommate in Hollywood. Oh, yeah. So it's like a perfect kind of my neighbor making dinner sort of thing. But that's okay. We're already out here. We made all this effort and we came out here. So let's just be out here. But I'll get a little bit more intimate so as not to be too embarrassing. I know this is a really funny ride we're going on. It's like not too much with the neighbors, but enough to look brave in the out of doors. Gotta get it just right. Okay, we're sort of in that awkward sweet spot now, I think. Okay, I'm comfortable with this. Just wish you could see my head. Yep. Oh, now we're crooked. This is fun. Please don't hold this against me. Please still love me. Still love me. Okay, do I feel too exposed? I don't know. You guys, it's a little weird. We're gonna go half in, half out. This is hilarious. Please, please, don't make marks against me. Just love me. Just love me, and it'll be okay. Just love me. So you can't do that either. We have to either write on it or write out of it. It's just 'cause the neighbors, guys, they were right there chopping their vegetables. So, you know, it's like, gotta measure out when things are worth it and when they're not. You know what I mean? I was gonna show you this too, because it is, if this story was the hike that it should have been, I would have brought this kind of backpack. This is my dad's old Boy Scout hiking, camping, adventuring backpack, and it's really something. The straps of it are the way straps should be. The way straps ought to be the way they were in my day. You know, straps these days. I tell you, I'm trying so hard to find the sweet spot, you guys. I love you. Please don't give up on me. I feel silly. Alright, it's just not, I'm not getting it. My little loved one, my little fur ball, I think, just ran in here like, what are you doing without me? Get it. Get up on this thing. Hello, Budrow Wilson. You want to come here? You good boy? He's cool. He's chilling. He's going in his G Gizmo. G Gwizzy Gwizgiz. He's going in his, like, thug life chair. It's pretty cute. Okay, stalling. Happy day 117. Let's get into a weird story. This one is called, yes, it's a story, and I titled it, The Antithesis of a Relaxing Hike. The focal point of this tale was a hike I could never forget. The adventure was motivated as... We're going to just start all the way over, right? Totally. Deal? Deal. The antithesis of a relaxing hike. The focal point of this tale was a hike I could never forget. The adventure was motivated as my closeted bisexual attempt at flirtation with a friend who'd recently entered my life. For anonymity's sake, we'll call her V. When I told her where I'd like to take her, I played it off like it was just a really great spot to get high. The destination was supposed to be a waterfall, which was rumored to be at its peak. I thought it would be sorta swoony. I'd been to the falls in childhood and was riding a false sense of security that I remembered exactly how to get there. I was born and raised in this town, but still to this day I find myself struggling to get around in it. I would be invited to a friend's house, and they'd say, well, you've been here before. Like, I should just have the directions stashed in my mental GPS and have no trouble returning to the same spot months later. This was before smartphones, mind you, but still the beginning of texting and condensing communication, so young people still acted really put out to give directions. I'd hesitate, embarrassed, before responding, yes, I know I've been there, but I never remember how to get places, so I'm sorry, could you tell me again? So fending for myself in the mountains, directionally speaking, was also not a real strong suit of mine. I was Twitter-pated to boot, so it made me even more fuzzy-minded. This friend knew I had a crush on her, and she was kind and amiable about it, but still very much aloof and maintaining an obvious distance in that pretty blonde straight girl fashion I've become so accustomed to. She let me kiss her once, several months prior to this memorable hike. The kiss was, I suppose, a one-time reward after I helped her move into a mountain apartment. We'd found a table for free outside a house, and I was in love with it. It was my favorite 1950s banana yellow. Glossy. Yummy. I didn't have a spot for it, and she didn't have the apartment yet. I stashed it for her for a long while and grew to love it even more as it sat in my basement. I was sad to load it up, but I let her have it for her new place because, let's face it, I was trying to stack up some points. The coveted table was cumbersome as all get out to move, as were the rest of her belongings. Of the 20 or so dude friends that also had the hots for her, somehow I was the only person who helped with the entire move. I carried in an old tube TV by myself and immediately saw that she'd painted the perfect canary yellow table of my 50s kitsch dreams a terrible slate gray. I was noticeably horrified. I played it down, not wanting to make trouble. I think anyone who took issue with things she did downplayed them as a direct result of her exceptional beauty. I wished for that kind of free pass. Regardless, I continued busting my ass to move the rest of her stuff inside. As we were sweating with the last side table up the long driveway, it started pounding rain. We're talking Hollywood scene, Q2 high-pressure hoses type raining. We set the table under the awning and stood out in the majestic downpour. There were small rainbows covering the valley as though they were offshoots from one super fog rainbow. I felt a swell of bravery move from my stomach to my chest. Without overthinking it, I said, "Can I give you a kiss?" She giggled that straight girl giggle, and in a squeaky voice that I already knew meant she was just humoring me, she shrugged and said, "Sure." It was a very PG and brief, nice but quite swift, almost like if you blinked you'd have missed it type kiss. We spent the rest of the afternoon smoking weed and talking about the difference between mountain thoughts and city thoughts. As we sprawled on her unmade mattress tossed on the kitchen floor after we'd run out of steam. So, flash forward to the hike of our lives. You can see it's somewhat understandable that I thought maybe there was a chance for a repeat half-felt romantic miracle, though I doubted it very much. Still, I clutched my little bit of optimism as we set off to find the waterfall. I parked at the top of a steeply sloping street, directly behind the house my best friend grew up in. And therefore, I did too. When she and I were kids, our parents used to watch in horror as we sledded down that very street in the winters. It was a dramatic enough of a slope that it was a dramatic enough of a decline and slope to make any parent nervous. It was more like a slide than a street. More on that bit of foreshadowing later. I packed a cute but impractical little backpack containing a few snacks and the ever-important weed pouch. I started out as the adventure guide confidently enough, but quickly realized we'd made a wrong turn somewhere. I thought the narrow path winding to the waterfall went upward along a ridge, but here we were somehow going down, down, down. I covered up my uncertainty fairly well at first, but I've never been much good at hiding the direct link between my emotions and my facial expressions. Soon enough, V caught on that I was less than oriented in our surroundings. She immediately looked worried. "We're not going the right way, are we?" She called to me sternly. I could just tell that she was relying on me to get us out of this, and I felt more than a little clueless about where we were. I hadn't brought anything useful on this endeavor. Not a compass, not a flashlight, not a map, and honestly, barely enough water for a simple stroll, let alone a long, long journey that would take its toll. I was even more spun around by my emotions, which were bombarding my worried mind with messages like, "You blew it! Way to go, bozo!" etc. I looked up and finally admitted out loud, "I have no clue where we are." I don't know how we got this far from the waterfall trail. We tried the old retracing of steps, and somehow everything looked different. We both recognized things the other didn't recognize, and vice versa. At one point, we both felt pretty confident that we had found the right track again, but that high lasted only momentarily, before I glanced up and almost shouted, "Damn it! We're still going down into the valley." Cutting through the hillside didn't seem to be any kind of an option, as the brush was extremely overgrown and completely covered in cactus. Before we knew it, nearly 5 hours had gone by, the darkness came on quickly, and what was supposed to be a nice stoner picnic at a waterfall accented by some one-sided flirting, had become a real nightmare. Adding to the whole being utterly lost plot twist, we both suddenly heard a very distinct, very large sounding rustle coming from the nearby bushes. We shushed each other and stood completely still, less out of logic and more out of total gut-gripping fear. The ominous thicket movement went on for several minutes. It wasn't far from us at all. I gestured to her that we were going to have to make an uphill shortcut. Cactus be damned. I didn't want us to be right on the open trail because whatever was readjusting itself nearby wasn't a fox or a beaver-sized mountain companion. Actually, I'd still place bets that it easily could have been a bear or a mountain lion. We took big, bounding strides up the hillside as we heard the thing's breath growing near us. In an almost superhero fashion, we made it higher. I felt immune to the burrs and cactus needles as my adrenaline pushed me uphill. We were both crying at this point, hard. And despite the impressive progress we made in a short time, we were still very much lost. It was now pitch black outside. And I would have been lying if I said I knew what the distinguishing features around us were. Much like someone guessing on a standardized test, I feigned a hunch and said, "Come on, we're going this way." I had no clue if it was the right way, but I just headed towards what looked like lights and hoped for the best. Unfortunately, we were about to be put through several more tests. We were comforted slightly by the fact that we were finally going uphill, but I still didn't recognize where we were. The time blurred and both of our brick phones were completely dead. We neared some kind of summit when, seemingly out of nowhere, we saw an elderly Asian couple. Both of us would later describe the feeling that they truly materialized out of thin air. Neither of us heard or saw them walking. It was like we were alone, scared witless, then quite suddenly, we weren't. They didn't speak English and we communicated with hand gestures, first putting up our arms in confusion saying, "We're lost." Lost? They made no acknowledgement of understanding. We continued to try. We were panicked. We pointed off in the distance saying, "Can we follow you to the parking lot? Follow you, please? Can we walk with you?" After a long moment, they nodded to us, simply, and just started walking. They spoke, I believe, Chinese to each other in very hushed tones and very briefly. And the rest of the time, they didn't pay us any mind and walked at a fast pace ahead of us silently. The man did look behind him a few times and gesture, this way, so I knew that they knew we were following them, but it seemed like something out of a very strange movie that might be a tripping cartoon. We were completely worn out, in a daze, trying to keep up with them. After about an hour, we made it to a parking lot that I recognized as being miles from where we had first parked. They clearly didn't understand when we asked if they could possibly give us a ride, because they just got in their car and said, "Parking," and "You're welcome." Then they drove away, leaving us once again stranded. V had an idea. Her friend from high school lived relatively close by, closer at least than where our car was. To get to this friend's house, we had to walk down another very steep and busy road, which was the main route to Estes Park, a very crowded tourist destination. Cars whizzed past us like speeding trains in an action movie. We looked for Vin Diesel. He wasn't there to help us. Several people honked at us, car language for, "What are you doing walking on this road?" It was our only path to getting help. My whole nervous system was wound up so tight I could feel every muscle aching. Thank goodness her friend happened to be home. She took one look at us and said, "What happened to you two?" We couldn't hide the wild ride we'd just taken through the nighttime mountains. We asked her if she would please take us a few miles to the car. She seemed very hesitant. "I'm still grounded," she confessed. "I dented my car. I'd have to ask to use my dad's." We looked at her with sheer desperation. We had no other options. Okay, hold on, she said, scooting away to explain the situation to her parentals. We prayed for their understanding. Dear old Dad agreed to let us use his wheels. Our relief was palpable. V's friend seemed terribly shaky behind the wheel. Clearly, her recent driving blunder had rattled her confidence in herself. When we got near the spot where we'd parked, what felt like days before, her face blanched. You parked up there, she said in a distinctly disappointed voice. Yeah, I responded, confused. My parents used to live up there, and it's one of the only spots I know where there's free parking around here. She looked up the extreme angle of the hill with dread. I hate this road, she moaned. She said it one more time just to really emphasize it. I hate this road. I'm sorry, V responded with a worried tone. Please don't make us walk again. Please? Her friend, we'll call her Freckles, hesitated, then released a big sigh, which said, okay, fine. She went so cautiously that it was actually too slow. If she'd just driven normally, or somewhat normally, I know we'd have been fine. But her extreme nervousness caused her to overcompensate for a rock in front of us and almost comically beeline the damn front of the big old Lincoln right into the ditch. Just like that. We were stuck again. The friend had forgotten her cell phone, and ours were still out of juice. I tried to be a calming force, even though all of us were burnt out on all the obstacles. At that point, we were about halfway to where my car was parked. Freckles was inconsolable, crying. I stepped up the only way I could and said, okay, you two stay here. I'll be back with my car. Knowing how completely worn out I was, V asked, are you sure? I knew that her friend could not be left alone, nor would she come with me. Yes, I said, faking gusto. I got this. I set off on my solo mission, feeling like we'd been trapped in this Twilight Zone episode for ages. I braved the mile or so to my vehicle, and when I saw it, it was like setting eyes on an old friend I'd been separated from for a long, long stretch. I felt triumphant when I pulled up next to the gals. Freckles was still audibly sobbing. V gave me a look that expressed there was still more drama to dive into. She doesn't want to get in the car, she said plainly. I heard her perfectly, but repeated it in disbelief. She's not going to get into the car? I asked. No, V said, trying to sound supportive to her friend's neurosis. She's afraid something else bad will happen. She's going to walk. I just nodded, stunned, so ready for the night to be over. At this point, it had been 8 hours since we began our bizarre voyage. There was no changing her mind. I told her we'd wait at the bottom of the hill for her to bring her home, and I thanked her for her help. We decided we'd lie and say we had to swerve to avoid a dog in the road, to explain her dad's car in the ditch. I comforted myself by thinking, at least the bad parts are over. One should never think that in a series of extra super bad events. Just as we reached the bottom of the road Freckles hated so much, we heard her frantic screaming. I looked in my rearview mirror, and first I saw her running like Phoebe Buffay, her limbs flailing in every direction. The next thing I saw was a huge pair of gold, glowing eyes, which I immediately recognized as either a giant coyote or a really, really, really big dog. I looked closer. It wasn't a dog. Freckles yelled, "Help, help!" The road was narrow, and turning around would have wasted time. I saw the big coyote gaining on her, and I just backed up full speed until reaching her. "Get in," I hollered. Then I laid on my horn, and it worked to scare away the coyote. When we dropped Freckles off, we told her parents that after avoiding the dog and swerving off the road, not true, I went to get my car and that Freckles was so scared she wouldn't get in, and then we included the coyote chase story. True. Her constant stream of tears was pretty convincing to them, and they went easy on her. V and I drove home in a sort of baffled silence. Then, as if on cue, we both started hysterically laughing. The whole wild experience kind of caught up to us at the same moment, and we just lost it, giggling. It was so far-fetched. The whole damn 8-hour-plus ordeal. We had to give in to the humor of it. It would go on to become one of 3 times I thought I was going to die with V. When we were together, we seemed to magnetize outrageous scenarios. It would be several years before I tried to impress another straight girl. It would be several years before I tried to... I almost said impressed. That's some Freudian shit right there. It would be several years before I tried to impress another straight girl. It's a good ending. I like that. Plus my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to take you out into the world because it seems like kind of spooky and cool. Hey guys, here's the world. Oh, how come that one didn't go on? We'll just scoop. Why isn't it working? Aw, bang-a-rang-a-danga. One of our lights is out. It's okay. Oh, yeah, we got a nice sprinkle on the face, actually, currently. It's, like, sort of perfect. So, I feel good about that. There's my little story for you. We got, like, blossoming cherry blossoms. I guess I'll have to show you in the daytime. But, it was really nice. We'll just end on this fairy butt, because I like that fairy butt. And now my butt's getting wet, but it feels really good out here. And I just like the kind of blue that a rainy nighttime makes. Like, that's a special kind of blue, right? It so is. Alright, so happy National Storyteller Day. Tell stories to your kin and your friends. And even to your enemies. Tell them more stories. Tell them I said so. Tell them I said hello. Goodbye.